What's up, everybody? Emma Fife here for Fandom, along with Kylara, who is representing our wonderful Fandom Wiki communities. Congratulations, number one, to all three of you on your fabulous Hall H panel this morning.
Thank you so much.
That must have been a little surreal to be the opening Hall H panel of the entire event.
It was.
It was, sure. Yes. It was equal parts terrifying and awesome, and I think people seem to like it. So.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of our minds was like, it's the opening thing. Do people know? Do they remember where Hall H is?
Right, exactly.
What if there's like 200 people there and it's this huge empty room? But it was great. Once we got up there, I couldn't see the back of the room.
And I feel like I grew up in Hall H in a way, like coming since 2006 with Iron Man 1, and just like all of a sudden being out there for the first time, because I'd always been behind the curtain making it all happen.
Right.
I stepped out of that stage, and Comic-Con hasn't happened in 2 years, and I'm like reunited with all these people that like make everything feel so great because they love movies. It was wild. It was really wild. I got a little teared up, if I'm being honest. It was a beautiful moment.
Now, since I was at the Hall H panel, I actually already know the answer to this question, but I am going to turn it over to Kylara, who has a question from our Forgotten Realms Wiki community.
Forgotten Realms Wiki asks, have you played any D&D tabletop or video games set in the realms? And if so, what are your favorites and who are your characters?
That's funny. Yeah, I'm an avid player. Is it set in the realms? No, you know what? I think it's set in a fictional world that our DM created, but it definitely utilizes a lot of the creatures and monsters, you know, from the manual. I also play a video game with my son, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom and Shadow over Mistra. That's how you pronounce it. He's probably too young to be playing it with me. He's only 5.5, but it's a nice bonding moment for us. So it's very much in my DNA at this point.
And John's character, also the name gets checked in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, it's the most exciting moment for me. Not seeing my name on the screen, but hearing my character.
Mm-hmm. Does he actually make an appearance in the film?
He does. He's not representative of the character that I created for
Right.
myself. It was really just a name check like Baba Booey.
Yeah, it's a nice little Easter egg,
This
specifically
is
for you.
actually breaking news because I don't know this.
Oh! There you go. You heard it
I'll have
here.
to find out one day.
You heard it here first, folks. So my follow-up question to that is, what class, because I know that John, both you and Jonathan are avid Dungeons & Dragons players. What class do you main? Like, what class do you gravitate towards when you play?
I mean, I'm a fighter because look at me.
Yeah, you've got a real fighter physique
you.
about
Yeah,
you,
that's
definitely.
right.
Yeah, I would not want to beat you in a dark alley.
I'm a half-elf paladin.
Okay.
And I've been that for, the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I gravitate towards bard, but I'm incapable of singing, so it's
Well,
painful.
But you're also a motivator.
Yes.
And you've got this cheery, youthful enthusiasm that keeps us going even in the darkest of days, and that's what a bard does.
Yeah, but I can't sing, so it's very complicated.
Yeah.
'Cause, no one wants to hear it.
Well, as we know, bards make plans too, so I feel like that's in line with your role as a producer.
It is,
Yeah.
and sometimes the plans don't work, and sometimes the plans fail, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We make a new plan.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
You gotta-
100%
you gotta
She
relatable.
also plays the lute.
Not relevant.
Forgotten Realms Wiki again asks, who were your consultants for Forgotten Realms and Dungeons & Dragons, and how much did they contribute?
Well, the Wizards of the Coast generally were involved very much throughout the process, in the writing stage and on set. And we would consult them with any questions we had, any issues we had, and they were really helpful because it wasn't in the spirit of you can't do that. It was let us help you figure out how you can do that in the world we've created.
Yeah, and Nathan and Jeremy at Wizards were just like tremendously helpful, and still are helpful. I mean, I was emailing with them yesterday about something that we're sorting out. That there's a map possibly in the film, and I want to make sure that everything on the map is right and is accurate, because some things you're looking for authenticity and some things you're looking for accuracy, and I think in that case, accuracy would be appreciated. Like Jonathan said, it's usually how do we do this inside the world and make it right, and then sometimes it's how do we make the movie exist in the world more specifically, and so it's really fun.
Yeah, we actually went up to Wizards of the Coast headquarters in Seattle and did a crash course in some of the lesser known aspects of the game, and it was wildly helpful, and we ended up incorporating a ton of stuff in the movie just from that meeting. So
That's fantastic. John, you mentioned something during the panel that I thought really resonated about Dungeons & Dragons. You said that D&D is not a game, it's the feeling you get when you play the game. How did you go about trying to capture that feeling in the creation of this film?
Man, well, it's just such a unique feeling playing it. The first time I ever played, I just realized it was unlike anything I'd ever done before. And I understand the appeal. It's almost like a drug playing this game because there's so many possibilities. There's so much fun, like socializing and creating these bonds that you would otherwise never create just from a normal conversation.
Sure.
And so that spirit was something that we definitely had to show. And also the fact that there's humor to this. And that's something that you don't often see in the fantasy space. So there's something very unique about this tone and about this world that we knew we had to get right.
Yeah. I feel that humor too is so intrinsic to Dungeons and Dragons. Like when you're playing D&D, you're usually having a laugh around the game table.
Yeah.
That's right, and that's why we created characters who are not superheroes. They're not great across the board. They have weaknesses that are very apparent that make them relatable to both people watching the movie and people who play the game, because you have some things you're strong at, some things you're not so strong at, and our group gets to kind of level up as they go through the movie.
We do have one more very fandom-specific wiki question from our wonderful Forgotten Realms community.
Can I first say, I get very nervous before you ask these questions.
It's a lot of pressure.
You're like, oh, what are the fans gonna
All
want
right,
to know?
lay it on me.
No, they're all good. How much did you use Forgotten Realms Wiki for research?
A ton.
Excellent.
A ton, yeah. I mean, honestly, sometimes on set, we also had this awesome producing partner, Ashley Alexander, who represents E1 and is like a bona fide D&D nerd who knows
Incredible.
way more than I do about it. And she was an invaluable resource.
Yeah.
And I think we all had all the time access to D&D Beyond, so it's just like, okay,
Yes.
hold on, no, that's not right, and the actors be like, what's happening? I mean,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
get back to it in 1 second. We have to work
Right.
something out.
Yeah, D&D Beyond, where you're like, yes, I can keep all my spell references here, and I know
Yeah.
exactly what they do and what the spell radius
I wish
is.
there was a D&D Beyond equivalent to every movie that we made, because it would
Yeah.
answer a lot of questions
Right.
that we have.
It
when
would
we're
really
making
make
it.
things a lot easier. Well, I have delved deep into the data of our wiki pages, and I actually have a couple of questions for you that I'm going to ask you to take a wild guess on. So what do you think was the most viewed D&D monster page in the Forgotten Realms wiki? What's the most viewed monster page?
No, Demogorgon.
That's a really good guess. You're thinking along the right lines. It is something that appeared in Stranger Things. It is not the Demogorgon.
Vecna.
Vecna.
Vecna's number 2.
Ooh. I don't know what else they have in that.
I haven't watched all of Stranger Things.
Number 1 is the Mind Flayer.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So again, very heavily influenced by Stranger Things. And one more. What was the most viewed character race? This one was very surprising to me.
I'm gonna say half elf.
No, and that's a really popular race for players to play.
That
I
was
think.
me.
Yeah. My first character ever was a half elf rogue, so I get it.
Tiefling?
Not tiefling. It's interestingly enough, it's the Asimir, which are the like descendants of celestials, which I would never
Wow,
have
that's
guessed.
the number
That
one.
was the number 1, and
All right.
Drow was number 2.
Drow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, people getting into their dark elf roots there.
Yeah,
Well,
lots of plum in those dark
there
elves.
is, yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, as I'm
indeed.
sure there will be a lot to unpack in the Dungeons and Dragons film when it comes out in March of next year. Very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
You.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And stick around, we'll have plenty more coming your way from San Diego Comic-Con.